All right. Welcome everybody to Black Girl Creative. My name is Myesha Francis, and I'm so happy that you are here. Today, as you can see, we have a lovely guest, Myesha. If you could please introduce yourself, tell us all about yourself, who you were when you were a child and who you are today.
All right. So thank you for having me.
Of course.
My name is Myesha Francis. I'm an artist. I'm a teacher. I'm a curator, and most of all, I am a art coach. So I coach Black women artists to unleash their creativity and really live at their highest creative self and their highest earning potential. So that's what I do. And then you asked me, who was I as a child? Oh, that's a good one. So I mean, I was just a normal child, had a loving family life, mama, daddies, three sisters, and they let me explore and do, whatever I wanted to do. I was a little bit wild, so they put me in karate to kind of calm that down. But I was always artsy. I was always crafty. Craft is my first love. I have always been into arts and crafts. And as a child, I think in seventh grade, I started doing like head bracelets or headbands with your name on them. And I would take orders from my peers, come home, do my orders, send them back. And I made good little money in seventh and eighth grade. And then in high school, I was designing nails. So I was the one, with all the designs, the long, gaudy nails with the diamonds and rhinestones, and I had a big clientele. Like I think I bought two cars before I graduated high school. So art has always been my thing. But when I got to college, I was reading a book called The Purpose Driven Life. And I remember a voice saying to me, I was sitting in church and it said, "You're painting on 6-inch nails and I have 6-inch canvases waiting for you." Changed my life. Went and enrolled in art school immediately, and I never looked back. So the journey has just been amazing. But that's who I was growing up. I was always artsy, always creative. And as I got older, I just learned to just let that thing start coming out.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, that was a lot. But it's good. It's good. I love the fact that one, you grew up in a household that actually allowed you to explore your interests. Because I know for a lot of people, a lot of Black women, like they don't really have that. Like some of us like come from like places of like, oh, we're trying to survive. And so if this ain't gonna make no money, sis, then you can't explore this. But you're actually showing that like one, you were very profitable in your interest, like in your even designing nails. Like first of all, two cars before you graduated high school.
Daddy wouldn't even let me drive them. Like that's how I was. I would think I was 17. I was waiting to get a license.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I've always found a way to turn my creative endeavors into monetary success.
Yeah.
And I know we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but I had to learn to not get sucked in to kind of that hustle culture because it would take away from my creativity, right? So before, when I was younger, it was the money was just coming and I wasn't forcing it. It was just coming. But as I got older and that overhead kicked in, now I'm forcing it. I'm hustling, I'm grinding.
Mm.
And that took away from the creativity. But that wasn't what you asked me. What did you ask me?
No. It's all good. I was just enamored with like the fact that you were able like to make enough money like to get cars like in school. Yeah, because I know for a lot of us, like I said, like growing up, it's always like, oh, if you're going to be an artist, you're going to struggle for the rest of your life. When historically, like for Black people in this country, sure, right? And that's not everybody's story. But historically, everywhere else, like we look at other artists who we proclaim are like greats, like Michelangelo and all these other people. Like it's like actually they were pretty wealthy. But it's almost like this romanticized version of the artist struggling monetarily. Right. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
I think we talked about that a little bit before that I made up in my mind that I would never be a struggling artist. And I've never been a struggling artist. Now I have had some rough years, and I have had some years where I had to take a step back and I've made a lot less than maybe, before, but I don't feel like I've ever struggled.
Can I ask where that came from? Like, how did you even have enough like thought to be like, I'm never going to struggle? Like, where did that come from?
One, I didn't like the term struggling artist. I'm like, we're not going to do that. My parents have worked hard, fought hard, been in the struggle, like, we're not going to do that. This is, and I knew from my younger days, like in high school, making money, I knew that I knew how to make money. Now, as a professional artist, I didn't know that. So I had to figure it out and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And granted, my degree is in art history and my undergrad is in studio art because I was afraid to get a BFA, right? Like, what am I gonna do with a BFA? But I wish I would have got that BFA because not only did I not get hired in museums and all this other stuff, right? I was president of Art History Student Union, top of the class, straight A's, and all my peers got hired. I didn't. They were getting internships or whatever, whatever. And I said, okay, that's fine. And I even did an experiment. I put Paris, Francis on my resume, started getting calls back. No biggie. So I'm like, okay, I get it. So I decided I would open a gallery. I wasn't going to wait. I was like, okay, these opportunities are not opening for me. I'm not even going to cry. I'm not going to blame them. This is how America was raised. This is what America does. Fine. So I decided I would make my own way. And I didn't know what I was doing. Somebody called me and asked me if I wanted to open a little studio. I was like, cool. And I called it a gallery, girl. I had a big opening and everything. And then my parents saw how serious I was and they helped me. I think 6 months later, I had a gallery downtown in the New Orleans Arts District. It's the only Black gallery on the street at the time. Even my elders in the community was like, how did you do this? I'm like, I don't know. I just know I made up in my mind I would not be starting.
Yes.
And granted, it was hard. It was tough. I had to really, to just be honest and transparent, I had to hustle, to figure out how to keep it going. So I started doing paint and sip parties. I started doing, all kinds of things. I had a Saturday kids class, which was very successful, and let me just say this, all of those things created relationships. You can't buy the kind of relationships that Paint and Sip will afford you. You can't buy the kind of relationships that you will get with the parents from your kids' camp because you poured into their kids. I would say at least 30-40% of those parents have all bought original pieces from me.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So first of all, you're like, the alignment is real because like I said, this morning I was recording podcast episodes for the month. And one of the podcast episodes was build your own table, right? Because like, I know that we're all like, oh, we want a seat at the table. We want to be included. And that is an up. Go ahead.
Go ahead. That's what I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I was saying that's an uphill battle. Like, that's a lot of energy. And so I was like, really think about like the imagery of someone sitting at a table that is full in their mind and feeling like you're coming in and disrupting their seating, right? So they have to get up, make room for you. And even if you are at that table, it's going to have something attached to it. They're going to look at you with like, they're going to despise you, or they're going to look down on you, or they're going to only give you certain access to whatever, or certain elbow room that they deem necessary for you to have, right? So a lot of these places, like, they tick off like, oh, we've met our diversity, necessity. And so we're done. But instead of putting all that energy into trying to be accepted, building your own thing might, with that same energy, right? It's still hard either way. I would much rather build my own table and bring people with me to that new table than try to be, try to appease other people, the majority who couldn't care less about me in the first place. So I love all of that. But go ahead, what were you gonna say?
So yeah. I love that so much. I was just going to say that, and that's fine, right? To want to sit at the table. But for me now, at this point in my life, again, I don't want you to begrudge me at the table. I'd rather you invite me, have an open chair, and that's fine. And if you don't invite me, that's cool too. I will go and build the table. And if I can't build it because I don't have the skills, I'll purchase it. And then I'll bring my sister in and say, yo, come sit with me and eat over here. So I had interns. I had a team at one point. And all of my interns, I wind up hiring to help me in my business. And I didn't pay them minimum wage. I'm like, okay, I'm going to make sure I give you a little bit more, at least $2-3 over minimum wage, because I want you to see that you too don't have to be a starving artist. They might have been in college at the time, but I'm like, I know you need enough at least to have gas, food, and whatever else. So, and I would always tell my interns, don't wait. Don't wait for me to give you a show. Don't wait for me to, go have your own show, and I'm coming, so it's important for artists. Let me tell you this. I forgot to tell you this. The year before I had my business, Essence Festival is in New Orleans every year. On Julia Street was where my gallery was, which is where most of the galleries in New Orleans are. There's some on Magazine Street, you know. But that year before, I was selling prints out of the back of my trunk. I popped my trunk and I was selling prints for like $5 on Julia Street out of the back of my trunk. I think I made almost $1,200 that day. And my daddy was out there helping me. Girl, I was sweating. New Orleans is hot in August. I was sweating. I would run out of prints. My daddy would go to the print shop and make some more real quick, and we just, you can't wait. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm 41 now. I'm not doing that no more. Like, I'm not trying to be outside in the heat in August selling prints. But if you keep taking those steps, if you are 21, sis, you have the energy. Go get it. Go do it. You can't get in Basel. Go park your car a block from Basel in Miami and sell what you can sell and make some connections and networks. So at the table, if people won't invite you or open up the table for you or begrudge you at the table, no biggie. Create your own. And I'm a big advocate of that.
Yes. Like clearly, like, so even something else I talked about, like, I know that it can be really overwhelming for a lot of people. Like, okay, I have this huge dream. I don't know how to get there, right? It's like, okay, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. And so like we can get in this place where it's like, well, I don't have the money. I don't have the resources. I don't have, connections or whatever that is. But we really do have to get resourceful in what we do have access to, right? Because I really feel like it's really easy to overlook the connections that you do have here day to day. So yeah, you might not, even if like you want to open a storefront, for example, you might not have like the capital to get that storefront. But like you said, if you got a car or a trunk, you know what I'm saying? If you're persuasive in your speech, like sometimes it really is about taking those first steps to actualize the real dream. You know what I mean?
True that. And you have to believe in yourself.
Yes.
I'm gonna share something here. I don't know how many people. I don't know if maybe only my daddy knows this. But when I opened my gallery downtown on Julia Street, I only had the deposit in the first month's rent.
Wow.
My parents hadn't given me any money yet. I was just like, I believe in me. Now that was naive, granted, but I believe that was so naive.
But it worked out, right?
It worked out, girl. I was there almost 5 years. And I only left because I outgrew the space. So a week, I'm thinking rent was like coming due for the next month. And I was just like, oh crap, what I'm gonna do? So I talked to my dad about it. And next thing I know, they slid me a little check. My parents ain't never gave me no money like that. My parents are hardworking, they were like, look here, figure it out, make it work. That's all we can do. That's what we have though. And I made it work. And then that December, I started running out of money again. And my sister was like, this paint and sip thing, this was 10 years ago. This paint and sip thing is like blowing up. This might've been 11 years ago. And she was like, why don't you do that? Me and my sister drove to IKEA. IKEA had the chairs I needed and some other stuff. My sister and I drove to IKEA on a Friday night. We spent the night at my aunt's house, who lives in Houston. We bought the chair Saturday morning and drove back, and we had a paint party, I think, that next Saturday.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Like, so one thing I do want to recognize is that your parents saw you taking this seriously, right? It's almost like the help came like when you needed it, but first you had to almost put your own like skin in the game. Like, and I feel like a lot of people,
that's it.
Yeah. Like a lot of people want support, and I understand, right? Like we all want to be supported, but it's almost like you have to believe in you first, much like you said, like you have to bet on yourself first, because before there are any other investors, you're your first investor. Yep. Like whether that's with time, energy, resources, whatever that is, like you have to be serious about your craft. And if you want other people, sadly, other people only hop on after they see that you're serious about it, because they don't want a bad return on their investment.
Gladly, right. They want to return on their investment as well. I don't think that's that. I'm going to do a video eventually about how to get in galleries, because artists don't get it. They think, oh, I'm going to graduate college, I'm going to get in some. No, they want to see you put some skin in the game. How many followers you have? How many pieces have you sold? Are you a valuable investment for me to take my retail space and put you up on the walls? So just like I liken this to the music industry. You will get much further if you approach a record company and you already have 50,000 followers listening to your music.
Exactly.
Yeah, they can get you another 5 million, but they know you invested. You've been putting in work, you've been doing shows, you've been networking,
Yep.
you've been writing. Like they want to know that you're invested as well.
Hmm.
You cannot expect anybody to put more skin in the game, in your game, than you should say, than you.
Exactly, exactly. And I love that you brought up like school, because I do want to get in your journey into your journey too. But I love what you said about, because I do believe that college can help, but I do think it is creating like these dreams, right? It's like, oh, as soon as I get my degree, then I'm gonna be I'm gonna be certified and credentialed and decorated. So they have to take me seriously. But for a lot of people, what they're realizing, much like your experience, is like, oh, there's more to this than just like, oh, just a degree. Because just like you said, like by seeing your name on paper, like it's like, oh, I'm already making judgment. So it's almost like you have to get. It's almost like college doesn't teach us how to be resourceful. It teaches us like like how to
It's
be.
true.
Yeah.
It's true. That's why I'm doing art coaching now,
Yeah.
because I realized that you can. I started teaching gifted art in high school, and I realized that some of these children, you can just build them on this. You don't even need, well, young people, they don't like being called children. You can build a whole business around this amazing skill and talent that you have, because college is not going to teach you how to do that. You're going to go to college, get an art degree, and graduate with 50 grand more debt and still no know-how. I can give it to you in a couple of sessions.
Mhm.
We worked together for a year. I got you. You're on your path. And then if you decide to go to art school, go there for the experience, the community, the feedback. Be clear about what college is. And all college is like another little course, but what you
Yes.
do after that course is up to you.
Yes.
But it does not open a door, pave the way. Maybe it did before. I don't know. But
I
I'm
don't
looking
know.
at my college debt like I could have did
Girl,
that.
y'all can have it back, okay? Like this ain't get me nowhere. Like, and it is, and I understand, like, I feel like the previous generations, right? It's like, oh, a college degree means more money. And now that's
Right.
not the
And it
case.
did, because you could
Yeah.
become a teacher, lawyer, whatever things that weren't,
Yep.
you make more money than the average
Mhm.
African American or even American, maybe.
Yeah.
I know in 2021 that is not the case. Even a
I'm
PhD, I know people with PhDs that are hurting. Right.
girl. Like, and it's crazy. It's sad because like we all bought into this dream. Like, okay, when I do this, I will be then. And so a lot of us, like I said, are just like realizing, oh, this isn't real life. And so we have to become resourceful and create our own avenues of income, even if that's not opting into these jobs. Because sadly, it's like some of these jobs, like y'all want 7 years experience and like a master's, and you only paying $30,000 a year.
That part.
How I'm supposed to live, right? Like, and pay back
That
this
part.
debt. Yeah.
That part.
So
7 years experience and 35, right? And a master's at 35 grand. And
excuse me.
right. And America is like just the cost of living is just constantly going up.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
And they're not paying. The pay is not going up at all. Like I remember making $8.75 an hour, like at
Mm.
like Circuit City when it was in business.
Mhm.
And as a teenager, I'm like, oh, this is good money. But now I look back, there was no way I could survive on that money. So I really had to start making my own kind of money, do my own thing. And it takes longer. People are gonna look at you funny, right? But at the end of the day, like I know what's best for me. I don't see myself sitting at a 9 to 5 job my whole life, barely making it, if making it at all, just to appease like sadly my previous generation or society. So like go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, and creatives can't do it. Sitting at a 9 to 5, it is so hard. But go ahead.
It is. And what I really wish, and I love this, like, but what I really wish is that a lot of creatives and artists could see their art as viable options to make money, and not just like some things can be hobbies, right? Like some things can be done just for fun. But I really want people to be able to take their art, their work seriously, their craft seriously. But it's really about like you really have to unplug from what society is telling you to really believe that about yourself. So how did you I guess how did you even have the courage to be like, this is my dream, I'm going all in, and like how do you encourage other people to do the same?
Oh, that's a great question. So I do a lot of inner introspective work. A lot of, what do I really want? What really makes me happy? What how does this matrix really work? You know, and so I knew, and even now I'm getting back to this point, I knew that there were a lot of things that I could not do and have. I like to dress, but I couldn't. It was all good. It was like that's not a priority to me. My priority was buying art supplies. My priority was, um, I don't know, taking courses or learning, right? I still forego a lot of things to take courses. Um, you said, how did I make it work? Was that your question?
Yeah, yeah. Like, how did you believe that you could make it work, and then
How
how
did
did
I
you make
believe
it work for
it?
yourself and influence and encourage other people to do the same?
You have to know yourself and know what makes you happy and know I'm gonna say it straight. What you are put on this earth to do, what God put you on this earth to do. You are a conduit for something. And so that's how I got the strength and the courage to believe that this is what I'm supposed to be doing because of the inner work. I had to block out the money I would make. Oh, I did forget to say that. So remember, I said that I was making all this money in high school, right? Well, when I went to college, I decided to stop. I wasn't making any money. I was just in college learning about art and the world of it because you don't learn about the business of it. That's something different. I got to study abroad in Italy at Lorenzo, the art school in Italy, and I was just all about learning and just you know immersing myself into it. So I had to put aside making money. I wasn't trying to sell art at that time. I was just trying to learn and grow. So I went from making all this money in high school and even a couple of years after, because I went to fashion design school first, and I was still making this money to not making any money at all. I was working at the Boys and Girls Club, probably like $8 an hour, something like that during college, because I just wanted to make enough to buy food.
Yeah.
And that's all I was focused on. I had a little Centra, and me and my Centra we're good. And I would be in that painting studio late at night, just working, and bearing down. And then when I came out, I was like, okay, it's on. Because I knew that that's what I was supposed to be doing. And whatever it took for me to be happy, in alignment, living my purpose, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter if I have sacrificed a lot to do what I do. So I have lived um, behind my gallery in a little apartment. I've done a lot of things and I count it all joy. I've even slept in the gallery, for like I think it was like a month while I was transitioning into another spot. When I had a little spot in the French Quarter, because I was like, okay, I need to move the space to another space, and then how do I do that without bankrupting myself and keeping my business and my art going, right? I don't think nobody even know that. Like that's my first time ever even saying that out loud.
Wow.
And I didn't feel no kind of way about it. I counted it all joy.
Yeah.
And you gotta be fine because that's your journey.
Hmm.
I had a friend, she does food, and she slept on the floor in the kitchen when she was trying to get her first restaurant. And
Wow.
so she couldn't afford the restaurant and the apartment or whatever. So she gave the apartment up. She was like, I'm going to cook.
Yes.
So um, people ask me all the time, how did you do it? How did you do it? I'm gonna say a lot of it was divine intervention, but that's because I was in my purpose.
Mhm.
And it will happen for you the same way, but a lot of it too is strategic planning. You have to plan. As artists, we tend to just got this idea, go that way. Got this idea, go that way. I got this, I made this 3 grand. I'm gonna take that 3 grand and go do this. I got this 5 grand. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So we just like all over the place instead of like focusing in on this one thing and building up that one thing, then adding something else, right?
Mhm.
Focusing on that one thing and then adding something else. So, like for me, I've focused on building my original art practice, getting that down and solid. I finally feel like I've stepped into my style. I took a whole summer and got all my prints together and got that lined up and how they are pumped out. Then I added affirmation cards. So that's another stream of income. Every now and again, I get a little $20, and people rarely buy one set. They might buy two.
Yeah.
A little $40 ding for my affirmation cards. And then Paint and sip was a stream of income at one time, and I really grew it and built it. Now I don't do 16 a month anymore. I just pick and choose one or two,
Right.
right? Every now and again, if I want. I haven't done any since COVID, but people have steadily been calling
Mhm.
because I built it for so long. And I have one, which is great, and it's like 50 people. It's
Yeah.
like, let me go make that 2, 3 grand bump, jump in, jump out.
Yes.
Um, and so now I'm adding another stream, right? The art coaching, building that up, and then eventually it'll be another stream, which is YouTube, which will come organically through doing coaching and sessions like these.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I think like I struggle with that too as a multi-passionate creative, like people who like, are all over the place. I'm guilty, right? Because I'm just like, oh my God, all these ideas, right, right. Like that is what it's like to be creative. Like you're just always like coming up with ideas, but we really do have to be careful not to self-sabotage
Yep.
because like we're like, oh, we're doing this one good thing. And because maybe this thing isn't growing how we want it to grow, or it's not moving as fast enough as we want it to move, we move on to something else. So we jump ship before it actually reaches the destination, right?
Right. We do that a
Yeah,
lot. We do it a lot. And
yeah.
even me, like right now, I'm teaching. So I teach gifted art because I knew I didn't want to do, like if I did paint and sit parties again, I wouldn't have to teach, but I knew I wanted to grow art coaching. Especially when I did it for a year teaching gifted students, I was like, whoa, this is what I really, really like. And I really want to be in this space, right? Of motivated and inspiring artists. So it allowed me to say, okay, I'm not going to go, I still was selling original art. So that stream is there, prints are
Mhm,
there, affirmation cards are there. But I also have that teaching as a stream of income. And it's important for artists not to get sidetracked in these full time jobs if that's not your end goal.
mhm, mhm.
So, art coaching, now this job allows me to really just push a lot of time into art coaching because I have all these other streams that are working just fine.
Yeah. So let's talk about the streams of income. Let's
Mhm.
talk about that because I really feel like a lot of people do put all their eggs in one basket, even if they're not creative, right? Even if there's like, oh, so I'm so dependent on this job, but then like we've seen like with government shutdowns, with COVID, with all this other stuff happening, we know that it's not beneficial to just rely on one stream.
It's
So
true.
like, yeah, so please tell us more about like streams of income as creatives and as artists specifically.
So I always talk about I went before prior to this, well, not even prior to this. Right now, I tell people I'm a full time artist, and a lot of artists think if they're not making their full time income from selling their original pieces and their original work of art, they're not a full time artist. That's just not true. Selling your original work, in my opinion, should only be one stream of income within your entire art business because even if you sell a piece for $5,000 or $10,000, that might just be that month. Even if you're in the gallery and they sell it, let's just say they sell out your whole show, right? That might be 30, 40, let's say $40,000, right? Let's just say you had a good show, right? But that's that for the year. And you might
Exactly.
not have another show for another year or two.
Mhm,
So you can't put all your eggs into only selling original art. You need to have multiple streams of income. So while you're building that original art practice, you should also be building your prints. Those are the two obvious, right?
mhm,
But there are lots of other things you can do. You can do licensing deals. I did a licensing deal. It was a $2,000 deal. I sent them one image. All it was an upload, click, email the image, right? And I took a licensing course. So I'm like, okay, how can I build this out, right? I haven't even started building that stream of income out yet, which I should because it's so easy, right? Well, I'm gonna say it's so easy. You have to pitch and all these other things, but also you want to there are other streams of income I learned about, like traveling exhibitions, where I have an artist friend who will put together an exhibit of his work and then shop it to different museums and cultural centers, which is a valuable thing because they have to do a different show every month or so many a year. And then he would just ship the whole exhibit to them. They pay him a check, and then when the exhibit is over, they send it back. Art markets, right? That's not a stream of income I build, but I know a lot of artists who make their entire living off of art markets because they're very strategic about them. They know which ones they're applying to year to year. You know, I love it. And I just don't like the going out and setting up and all that ain't for me. It makes no sense, but so
It's beautiful that you have like options, right? Like, and
yeah,
I think because I love even before when you were talking about the sip and paint and you were saying, I don't have to do this, right? And so I feel like one thing that's really appealing to me is like building multiple streams of income because I'm also a photographer, right? I'm a singer, I write. And so me having the flexibility to decide like, okay, this season one, I don't have to depend on one thing to make me all the money, get burned out, right? Like be like, okay, I hate this craft. And it's really
it's
you don't.
boring, right?
Yes. And you don't hate the craft. It's like
No.
you hate the pressure that you're putting on the craft. Like the love is there, but like having multiple streams of income gives you flexibility and you don't have to put all this pressure on one thing.
On one
Like
thing.
it's
And in your case, it might just be about, because I feel you and I hear you on that. It might just be about for 1 year or two, you just build out your photography business. So then the clients are coming to you. Everybody,
yes.
all your referrals, they're just coming back, and you don't have to focus so hard on that. But when that $1,200 job comes, you can go take that,
Hmm.
right? And then you can come right back into songwriting. You
Yes.
are coaching and mentoring in somebody in songwriting.
Yes.
So that's a full-time, business model. And artists get really deflated and defeated if they're not making all of their money from selling originals and prints.
Yeah. Yeah.
Originals and prints are not the only thing that you can do. As a matter of fact, you're creative. You can go probably do a piece of clay. I love pottery. That's my first love. People don't know that.
I want to try that. I do want to try some pottery. I just gotta find some place to go to do it. But yeah,
It's messy.
like yeah, it's and I do like this idea of because I know for a lot of multi passionate people or people who can't choose like one thing to start. It's like oh, but what about all this other stuff, right? And it's like giving yourself a time frame. Like what I tell people is like one, figure out if you like it enough to even make it a business, right? So like even if I don't know, say if I was a photographer, right? And I'm like, okay, for 90 days, let me try like taking pictures of people because it's different when you have a idea in your mind that you want to carry out like a personal project versus like someone is paying you and so they're paying you they have expectations they have an idea of what they want to see and so some people go into businesses not really understanding that oh I actually don't even like this right or I don't like this part of that thing. Give yourself like a trial period like a trial run and then like you said give yourself like a year 2 years however many years you need to give yourself to build this one thing and then try something else, right? So like how long do you think? And I know it depends on like the person, but like how long do you think it takes in between each stream to build for creatives?
Um, yeah, that's subjective. That's subjective because I'm not saying that you can't build them all at the same time. We're not gonna
Mhm.
say all. I take that back, right? As a matter of fact, in my coaching practice, I say focus on three at the most at one time.
That's good.
But I don't know because, like with photography, I don't know. Photography, it may take a long time to prep. You got to go out to the location, take pictures, come back, edit. That's a lot. So, whereas with coaching, we can do these videos and share every day right here
Hmm.
from the comfort of our homes or wherever we are. So I don't know. I think that's subjective.
Okay,
But
no, that's fair.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's
fair.
important to focus down on
Yeah. But I do like that you said three, like three at max, because
facts. I'm not saying you can't pick up something here and there. Like for
right.
instance, people, murals don't come all the time. If
Mhm.
somebody calls you to do a mural, even while you're focusing on these three, go get that mural, hun.
Yeah.
Because I can hear in people's mind right now, but how do I make money if I'm da, 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 da?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying that you still can't have a job at Circus City
Mhm.
while you're building these three streams of income because they might not be bringing any money right now.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that artists have to get past. They want to create, put it out there, sell, create, put it out there, make money from it, create, write a pitch, make money,
Mhm.
create, send that song to the A&R person and make money. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen like that. It takes time. So yeah, you might have to be working at Circuit City while you're building these three streams of income and building your network and you know
Mhm.
and
And And it doesn't make you less of an artist. Like if
Doesn't
anything,
make you less of an artist.
not at all. And if anything, it gives you freedom because now your investor is your job. Like you don't have to, like you have freedom to
Oh, that's
explore.
good, Alicia. Your investor is your job.
I'm saying, like, you're getting paid. Like, yes, you have to trade time for money, but you can use that money to fund, right? But you can use that money to fund, like, if you're a painter, paint, or you can fund, software for music or whatever it is that you're doing. Like, and seeing that thing as giving yourself freedom because I'm trying to tell you, when you step out here and you're just depending on your one thing, it can get very scarce. It can get very scary. And like, yes, and you also want to be able to make sober decisions, right? Because
That's good.
when you're desperate, like you will do anything. Like you'll do anything for money. You will lowball yourself. You will take on gigs that you're not qualified for or that you don't want to do. And so now you have, this Rolodex of people, for family shoots, and you don't even like family shoots. You don't even like weddings. And that's some place that I found myself. Like I was doing a lot of weddings because it was money, because it was appealing, because like, oh, I can make this money. I was drained. I was exhausted. I was sick. My body, like, a wedding is a grueling day for a photographer and videographer and everybody else. Like
I've heard a lot of photographers say that.
Oh, it's bad. And so I realized I was miserable, but I was making money. And for me, it just wasn't worth it. Like it was like had I had money coming in, and I did get a job, I worked at a bookstore, but had I had money coming in, then I wouldn't be so pressed to take on every single job. You know what I mean? So
that's true. That's really true. And I know that it gets hard after you've been working, a full-time job to come then and get into your practice. That can be a little bit much. Even like now with teaching, I tell artists, oops, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Oops, sorry about that.
You're fine.
Artists, let me turn the ringer off. I tell artists to try to work it out with your job where you can have some flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't hurt to ask. I promise you, if they know you're an artist, they will try to help you. They'll respect you. Not all the time, right? But every job I've had, I've asked for flexibility because I'm an artist, and they've given it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And where I can always just focus on still being a full-time artist.
Yes.
That is what I am. That is what I do. I told my school, I am an artist first, a teacher second.
Yes.
And they respect that, and I'm like, I can do my planning from home in my studio, so now I go from maybe an 8-hour day to 5-hour day, but really I'm still working 8 because I'm planning at home. So work, talk, open, have conversations. It's scary. What if they say, well, no, you're not the right one for the job? Yes, that's a risk. It's scary. Mm-hmm. But if you would ask, like they say, you ask not, you have not because you ask not.
Absolutely. And especially for like Black women, like specifically, I feel like we're like born apologetic, right? Like we're born like apologizing for everything or feeling that we have to bend to everybody else's whim. And really asking for what you need and really setting boundaries can be really hard for Black women, like women specifically, but especially Black women. Like we're like looked at as superwoman. You should be able to do everything. Like, no, like you'll find time to do this, or you should put your things on the back burner for me, whoever me is, the job, the person, whatever that is. Like, so for yourself, like, first of all, I want to know, like, in the space of visual art, in the space of like painting or all these other things, what is your experience like as a Black woman in these spaces? Like, does it feel different? Because I'm not a part of these spaces, but I do want to know like what that's like for you.
I mean, just to be honest and really vulnerable in this moment, I would always say that I have, in these high art spaces, there has been some trepidation on my part, but I haven't ever felt blatantly unwelcomed. And I say blatantly, but, obviously I maybe I wasn't invited to A, B, or C, and it's like, okay, mm-hmm. I don't feel no kind of way about it because I understand that Americans were raised like this,
Exactly. And it's almost like, I feel like we've been so groomed to understand that we're not always going to be accepted, that some of it doesn't even like hit our radar, right? It's just like, okay, that's life. Like we keep it pushing, we keep it moving. You know what I mean? And I love
to be around people who love and accept me, and I want to sell to people and work with people who love and accept me. So for sure, while I was doing Paint and Sip, I would say 98% of my paint and sip clientele were Black women, but at the same time, about 90% of my original art sales were white.
Mm.
So
Mm-hmm.
and that changed as the years went on because now I have relationships with these Black women and I can say, sis, it's all right to do a payment plan. We could work that out. They would be afraid to ask because it was a new space for them. Me too.
Yeah.
I don't think I had been in more than 3 or 4 art galleries before I opened mine.
Wow.
So and that's most people because most people are intimidated to go into art galleries. That's why we have
Yes.
like these art walks and art nights. I didn't know that until I started going to the association meetings. We do these big events because we make it relaxed so that people can come into an art gallery and learn.
Yes.
So 90% of my art sales were white. And so those people, I'm like, okay, then I form relationships with them.
Yeah.
The other white people who may have ignored me or didn't even want me down there, okay, that's their problem. I don't focus on them.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. And I love the fact that you brought up like making the spaces accessible, right? Making it palatable for people because I know for like even like so I live in the DC area, so all the Smithsonians and stuff like that are around here, it's like okay, like it could feel really intimidating when you have artist friends and like your artist friends are like, dang, like well my art isn't like this, or even using terms and things like that because maybe they didn't go to art school but they're still amazing artists, and because they lack the vocabulary, they lack I guess like the being ushered into the space, like they feel like an outsider, and so therefore they don't even try, like they just keep it to themselves in their notebooks and things like that. Like I love that there are things in place where they're making things more accessible, right? Like they're making it more understandable.
that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge, actually. Even my mom, when I first opened, she begged me. She was like, do a series on what is an art gallery.
Yes.
She was like, and show younger people art so people won't be intimidated to come in and stuff like that. And I was like, no, people know what art galleries are, but I was young and naive again because I was in that field. No, my
Mhm.
community, a lot of people that I knew didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't know you can even ask for a payment plan.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
White people know. They know. As a matter of fact, I was on a stream on Facebook, and they were like, "Only Black people asking for payment plans." What are you talking about? I learned it. I learned how to offer them and how to set them up
yeah.
from some of my white clientele. And
Wow.
I love them so much because they also taught me so much.
Yeah.
You know, um, and that's not the only reason why I love them, but I
Oh,
learned
no.
so much from my white clientele.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can be intimidating, even for me. And I am in this industry and have been in this space. But if you take me to New York, well, back then, not now. If you would have took me to New York in one of these higher end galleries, I might have been like, oh my God, what's this? How do you even approach the art? How do you even talk to the art owner, the gallery owner? What do you say? Oh, I really like that piece. And maybe I could afford it over a year, but how do I say that? Is it even allowed? Do people ask for the price because the prices aren't listed? Yes, you ask for the price.
Yes.
When people say, oh, if you have to ask for the price, you can't afford it. Bull crap. You think Jay-Z gonna go buy a NBA team if he don't know the price? I mean,
This is fair. That is fair.
so
It's
um,
almost it's almost like shaming tactics, right? It's like
I
people,
think it's just fear,
yeah.
unknown, fear
Like
of
even
the
like
unknown.
even of this like idea, like only Black people ask for payment plans. That's not true. That's not true at
Only
all.
Black people ask for hookups. No,
Are
that's
you serious?
not.
A lot of these people, even white people who are in high places, like high positions, they got a hookup. Somebody brought them in under their wing. Like it's full of hookups.
Everybody wants the best deal. And
Yes.
if you're not asking, is that the best you can do? You're probably not that good of a business person.
Wow.
I've heard artists say my price is my price and that's it. Well, if you send a song to a record to a music company and you say you want 15 grand or 20 grand for this song, and they say, well, nah, but I give you 15 and your rent due, you're not gonna take the 15?
Uh, I'm gonna
Like
take it. I'm gonna take
he's
it.
gonna be like, no, 20 is my price. That's my price. It's my price. I'm not gonna give
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you should have run your numbers. And this is why I had to do art coaching too.
Mhm.
Run your numbers. I never forget my mentor told me, you just don't do simple business math. Run your numbers and know what you need for it. So by the time you sent it to the record company and asked for 20, you should know that it cost you 10,000 to make it. So
That's
now
good.
you still earned a profit and you got paid for your time and your service and whatever you did.
That's really
So
good.
it's I've learned all these things through trial and error, growing and going and growing, um, taking courses here and there after college, right? Um, and just I encourage myself a lot.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, you have to encourage yourself a lot if you're a creative person because you're all over the place. And
Yes.
sometimes you ain't making no money. So you have to encourage yourself.
Yes. I do want to ask a few questions before we start to wrap up. But number
Okay.
one, like with community, like what's been consistent in your story is community, whether that's like your parents helping you out or like Black women coming to your paint and sips or white people helping you understand like the business itself. Like, how has community benefited you? Like, we've heard some examples, but how do you like pour back into your community based on like with your art and with your coaching and things like that?
That's a great question. To me, and I've had to learn it over the years,
Mhm.
community is everything because I thought I was a loner, right? I thought that I just want to be in my creative zone. I want to be in my head. I want to go over here and create. But the gallery really forced me out of that and having to meet and mingle with people and create connections and network. And I found over the years that it was the spice of life. It is the network, it is the connections that are always your next opportunity. It's never that one sale that comes in and happens.
Yeah.
No, it's the people that you meet along your journey. And as far as community, I when people ask me for a donation, I try to give it. I talked to an artist one time. I was like, man, these donation requests are out of control. And he was like, it's okay, always give. He was like, just have a stack of prints, give every time somebody asks.
I love that.
I know and I sat back and I thought about it and I said, he's right. Because first of all, I'm a giver. And I know that when you give, it comes back. And I don't give to get it back, but I just love to give and I don't worry about it because it comes back. And when it comes to family, somebody just posted this the other day and they were like, family always want to hook up. I give my family art.
Yeah.
That is the marketing that you can't buy. They love you
Yeah.
and they will put your name in circles into people that you could not because they're in different industries. They're doing different things. They ain't even really that into art, but they're into your art.
Yes.
I have 3 sisters, and I make it my business that they have an original piece of art every year. And my nieces and nephews were the two that are grown. The other ones they gotta wait. They get my little small paint and sip left,
Okay.
because I go in their bedroom right now and my paintings are on the floor. It's like they don't get real art
Yeah.
until they get bigger. And then like for birthdays, my aunties, I make sure I give them a piece of art. My mama, she has my mama's piece is the piece that's in the Smithsonian.
Oh,
She's
wow.
always like, you come take my art. My mama has a lot of art, but often I'll be like, Ma, I need to, see that bar, that piece or whatever. Because the person, how I got in the Smithsonian, that was again community and network. A dear friend, invited me to come have coffee. And she was like, oh, by the way, bring that piece that you did with your kids exhibition. I did my first year teaching. I was also interning in a museum. And I decided that I would have my students to have a museum exhibition.
That's
So
so
I was
cute.
tasked with creating an exhibition, and I said, okay, I know my students are going to be the exhibition, and then we're going to have a field trip for the opening. And the museum did an opening and everything for them with food, and I mean, it was like so cute.
I would cry. That's
Oh my
beautiful.
God! But check this out, Alicia. That's how I got into the Smithsonian by doing that community work
Wow.
because the person who invited me to the meeting, she had saw the piece at that exhibition. I had all of their pieces surrounding it, but my piece was somewhere to the side or in the middle or whatever. And she was like, oh, and that piece that you had at your student's exhibition that was yours, bring it for
Yes.
coffee. And I get there and the curator is sitting there. And she says, "Can we take this with?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you can take it." I even asked
Please.
my mama. It was her, But that was community, that was networking, but mainly that was somebody putting me, in. So I realized from that experience that I have to do what she did for me for others. I have
Yes.
to.
Yes.
I have to. And that's how it works.
Mhm.
So
That's I totally agree with that, especially when you said you don't necessarily give to get back, but But the thing is, when you do give, you will always be taken care of. Like
It's true.
I I've been in some weird positions and God always came through because like one, he's my God, but also I do believe that sometimes the people that came through were the people that I'm in community with, right? So like much like you said, I have a cousin who's not really like a musician, but he works in the government or worked in the government. And so one of his coworkers had like this radio show. And he was like, "Oh, my cousin makes music and he put me on the radio show." Like, you know what I mean? And his interest is not music, it's me. Like he's invested in me. And much like
That
you said,
part.
like, you know what I'm saying? So I
That
love
part.
all of that.
And all that might have been was you, and I'm not saying this is what happened, but you might have just sung at his wedding for free and was like, "Cuz I got you."
Right.
It's okay. Yeah, you charge $250 to do weddings, but for your cousin,
It's free.
go
You're
ahead on.
good.
I'm not and listen, you could even be like, "Cuz, well, normally I charge 250, but just give me 75."
Mm-hmm.
And they will respect that and honor that and love you back for that. And so you just really gave another 125. Oh, yeah, whatever the number is. I know that's just 200, so whatever.
No, I'm not doing the math either, but
Yeah, look, you gave 125, but that is also marketing and networking and connections that you can't buy,
yes.
and you want to build that right along with your practice. So those closed fist creatives,
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's
Mm-hmm.
not flowing for you. And that's just the truth.
Say that one more time.
Closed fist creatives is not going to flow for you. And that's the
That
truth.
that is the absolute truth. And I do think that some people like struggle with scarcity mindset and even with like beyond like, oh, I can't do anything for free or like I can't give or whatever. It's almost like even that idea of like it's like yes you can and this idea of like competition, right? Like, oh,
Ooh,
I
ooh, ooh,
gotta
ooh,
and that is a
ooh,
scarcity mindset. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like at
ooh.
all?
I love you for even bringing that up. Competition. There is a meme I love. I saw it on Instagram one time. The only person I compete with, and then there was an arrow pointing up to yourself,
Themselves?
yourself, your own picture. Because to me, competition is, and I compete with nobody. I do not compete ever. I don't compete. I don't compare. Now, I might look at other artists' work and be like, wow, that's so beautiful. I wonder how I can, unfold that or explore that in my work. But I'm not competing or comparing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's and that keeps you focused on what you're doing. Like you have to sh- black, black out what everybody else is doing and focus on your race.
Yes.
And that to me, that just gives you so much more peace in life. I don't even really understand um I don't know how to say this without sounding naive.
No,
I
go
think what
ahead.
I'm really getting at, I was about to say, I don't really understand competition, but what I'm really saying, I don't really understand jealousy and
Mm,
envy. So a lot of times I don't see it coming
mhm,
because it's not even a thought in my head, like to be jealous or envious of what somebody else is doing because I'm so focused on how can we collaborate and do it together or how can, I assist or give. Now, I'm not saying that every single thing or venture I've done has succeeded. I have messed up in collaborations. I have.
mhm.
Maybe I didn't understand something right or say something right or do something right. But you learn, you dust it off, and you come back again. You don't just say, oh, well, I ain't fooling with nobody.
Exactly.
I ain't working with this one. I ain't working with nobody. I ain't working with that. No, you learn. You fix it if you can. If you can't, move on. And you do it better the next time.
Exactly.
Right? You do it better the next time
Mhm.
because collaborating and working with people sometimes can be hard. You might have an idea, I might have a different idea, but if we all put our purest intentions first, then we can really collaborate and do it together. But it takes work. It takes people like letting their ego totally go.
Yes.
Like your ego will ruin stuff for you.
Yes.
And if I feel like an artist has so much of an ego, like we can't, I don't want to
No.
talk because your ego can't lead the conversation. I had
Exactly.
an artist call me 2 days ago, not even 2 days ago, it was like a week ago. And they were so caught up in how people would look at them and think and think and think. And I was like, we can't even talk. We can't even get to the meat because you got to
Wow.
worry about your race and you have to focus on who will work with you and who not talking about you, who want the best for you. All the people that's gonna talk, they gonna talk. They ain't even doing nothing. it makes me laugh when people online like comment on Olympians and movie stars. They out there putting themselves in the public on the line. You are doing nothing but commenting.
This. This. And I've said this always, like the people who have the most to say do the least. Because if they're focused
The least.
because if they're focused on their own thing, what would they have to say about you for? Like, what do I have to criticize anybody else when I'm
That's
focused on my own
the
thing?
that's the one thing I don't do, right? I have three sisters and we might kiki kaka,
Mhm.
here and there, but I do not like to sit around and talk about
Yeah.
what everybody else is doing or what how they failed or you know, if
Yep.
they failed and I noticed it, I'm like, man, well, what they could have done better.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
so even
And
with the track star who, had
yeah.
her little glitch, I hope instead of me saying, she should have known, no, what could she have learned and what can she do better for the next time? When you
Yes.
have pain, find you a mentor right now
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that you can go and cry and cry and cry until you can't cry anymore and move on to your next competition, right?
Yes.
So we have to, I have a mindset of I encourage myself, I encourage others. I try to now even more intentionally build real, true connections and in collaborations.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. And
No competition.
no competition. Like,
Because
no
I'm,
competition.
no, I'm just playing.
But you said, because what?
I said because I'm a win, but I'm just playing. I'm trying to win my race. And
Yes.
it was a pastor who said it a long time ago. He said, all you have to do is wake up in the morning and say, God, what can I do for you today?
Yes.
How can I serve the universe? How can I serve the people today?
Mhm. Mhm.
The gifts will make room for you.
That's a word. That's a word. It is. And this I love how you said like like where does the jealousy come from? I feel like honestly, it's almost like people who don't actualize their own dreams or play their own part or take up their own space,
Mm.
their dreams become like cancerous. Like it becomes envy and jealousy and like bitterness, but it's like, but sis, there's enough room for you too. Like if you would just come up and take up space, right? Like this person is not, even if the person is doing the exact same thing you're doing, like that's you're not infringing on them, they're not infringing on you either by taking up space. They're just more I guess more intentional about taking up their space and more unapologetic about it. But the person who you're looking up to, they probably have their own struggles, their own insecurities and all this other stuff, like, and so you don't have to be jealous. Like you can take up room and you can actually collaborate with them. Wouldn't it be
And you can
better?
collaborate with them. I remember my mom had to, kind of pull me to the side and be like, be careful. The people might not be happy for you. They may be
Mm,
jealous. And I was like, really, for real? And I'm up in here crying on the gallery floor, like bawling, how am I make it to the bar? What am I do? They jealous of that? They want
listen.
that? So yeah,
Yeah.
that is because they're not walking in their thing. Like you want that thing.
Yes.
And I'm the type of person, if you had to just came knock on the door and say, hey, how can we,
Yes.
I would have made space for you.
Absolutely.
I
And
would
we
have
can all win. We can all win. We can all eat. I always say that all the time.
we can all eat. The earth can provide for everything that's in it.
Yes. Yes. You're not like there is room for you. And
Mhm.
the lower, I guess, level is to become jealous and bitter and like down
Yeah.
talk. You know what I'm saying? But the higher level, what really takes is you to put your pride aside, like you said, your ego aside, and be like, I admire what you're doing. Because sometimes envy is mistaken for admiration, right? It's just like
Mhm.
you could just be like, oh, I admire what this person's doing. I love how they're living their life. How do I follow, like either follow in their footsteps, ask them for advice, and live my own life, right? Like not copy exactly what they're doing, but like, hey, like, how did you get this? How did you get this far? Right. And so for myself, what I've seen is like, yes, like sometimes the first instinct is like to second guess myself, to be like, oh, I'm not as good as this person, or I don't know, like, is what I have to say good enough? And it's like you said, like God, I am a conduit. Like it's not even me, it's not even mine in the first place, right? It's not mine in the first place. So
That part.
so all I have to do is show up and be myself. That is literally all that's required of me to do the thing. You know what I mean? So
Oh, show up and be
yeah.
yourself and be the
Yes.
conduit, an
Yes.
open vessel. So you really, if you're jealous of anything, you should be jealous of not being open.
This. 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 I love this conversation. I do. I do. But as we wrap up, I do want to ask you, like, so I usually ask like, what advice would you give people who are just starting out in their either creative journey or in their artist journey? But I really like to rephrase the question and ask like, for yourself at the beginning of your journey, what advice would you give yourself today, looking back now?
Be patient.
Mm,
There's a quote I just created. It is, art is not a marathon, and I can even interchange that with creativity. The artist journey is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Train well and run steady.
I love that.
That's it. You have to be patient. It takes time to build a network. It takes time to build your style. You know, artists think I'm a graduate college. I'm gonna put this stuff out I did in my senior exhibition, and I want $5,000 for every piece. You don't even have a meaningful style or be patient.
Yeah.
Just keep showing that work. Maybe give a couple of pieces to your family because you're building your network, you're building your marketing. Be patient. It's okay to be patient. We have this culture where it's like, I want to blow up tomorrow. Oprah even said it. Young people don't want to put the work in. They don't want to be the old Oprah who got fired from the network.
Wow.
They don't want to be the old Oprah who boss told her nose was too big. They don't want to be the old Oprah who, was working at the shoe store. They want to get out of communication school and go on TV and start a network.
Wow.
Oprah ran the Oprah Winfrey Show for what, 25 something years before she started a network. You want your network tomorrow.
Yes.
And then when it fails, you want to give up.
Yeah.
So for any creative, I would just say be patient, be strategic, be open-hearted, and be honest with yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I would have told the younger me. Be patient, Myesha.
Yeah.
Be patient, get some more understanding, get some structure around what you're doing instead of flying with every other thing. And just continue to grow. It'll be okay. You will be okay. And make smart, better money decisions. We could do better.
That's good.
Creators can do better.
Yes, yes. And that's for me. I'm taking all that advice for myself. Look,
Even me too. You
yes.
continuously grow. I'm continuously telling myself, be patient. Yes, I want, a whole other stream, but be patient. Just share. Just talk your talk. Do what you do. Share and be patient, and you will grow. Your customers will grow. Your practice will grow. It will. It's like planting a seed and just come water it. Every 3-4 days. It'll be all right.
And it's almost like even a gentle spirit that you use like with plants, like you should use it with yourself. Like you're not gonna like yell at the plant like grow already. Like
Yeah, you can't force it. It's gonna
yeah.
grow in the rhythm with the rhythm of nature.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, so you can't force it. I actually just did an experiment the other day. I planted a bean because I have plants. I love plants.
Yes.
And I know they grow fast.
Mhm.
Right? So I just wanted to see it fastly grow or whatever.
Mhm.
But yeah, you gotta just water your gifts.
Yeah.
Water your gifts, water your gifts. Be patient. Be gentle with yourself. Everything you do or create is not going to be a success. Some of it is going to be a hot mess. It is okay. Put it in the closet and come back to it.
Exactly.
Close that notebook, put that notebook up on the shelf, come back to it. Be gentle with yourself. Don't compare.
Yeah.
And run your race.
I love that.
Train well, run steady.
Yes, I love it. So if you could look 10 years into the future, where do you want to see yourself in 10 years?
Ooh, 10 years. So I see myself quietly making art and coaching.
I love it. I love it.
That's it.
I love
Quietly
it.
making art, coaching, and reading.
Yes. So what can I ask? I know this is supposed to be like a quick question, but like about the quietly making art. Like what does that mean to you? Like what does that mean?
That means just like right now I have 5 pieces going, right? And I know where all of them are going. But I would rather have a slower pace with my original art
Got you.
where I'm making, and I'm talking about like in a little cottage somewhere, you know, slowly making art. And that's it. Every now and again, coaching and
Yes.
saying, hey, I know you're on your art journey. This is where we can go next. This is what we can do. This is how we can, um, whatever. But that's the life I see, a quiet, slow, creative life.
I love that. That sounds
Mhm.
beautiful. But thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. This has
If
been
you
so amazing.
Yay, same. This has been like life giving. But if you could, if you could please like let people know where they can find you, how they can work with you, like please let everybody know all the things,
Yes, of
please.
course. I am online, www.mfrancisgallery.com, and you can work with me by just going to mfrancisgallery.com. You can click on the Work With Me tab, or you can go to mfrancisgallery.com/work with me, and I'll put it in the chat. Can I type in the chat?
Oh yeah, you can, of
Okay,
course.
mfrancisgallery.com/work with me.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
yeah, that's how you can find me. I'm also on Instagram as at creatively yours Myesha, and that's also my YouTube channel is Myesha Francis or creatively yours Myesha.
Okay, perfect. And I'll share all those links and everything with everybody because you're
Awesome.
amazing.
Thank you. So
Of
are you.
course. Oh, thank you. But yes, that's it for today's episode, you all. Thank you so much for listening, for watching. And until next episode, be sure to follow Myesha on all the things. And I'll talk to you all next time.
Bye,
Bye.
y'all.